Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a debate we're hosting for candidates running for CD9. We're very excited to have everybody here. We have 7 candidates participating. It's going to be a very busy event, and we're going to try to make the preamble very short so we can get to the main event. I do want to point out that AI translation is available. Traducción de IA está disponible. Hay que ir a settings y cambiar el idioma que quieres escuchar. Perdón, no escuchar, ver. It's going to be captions that are going to come. This is available on mobile and desktop. Okay. So I'm Michael Schneider. I'm the founder and CEO of Streets for All. We have Josh here, who's also on our steering committee. And we're excited to be with you here tonight. We're going to give you a couple minutes of context and history on Los Angeles in general when it comes to transportation and past plans. We'll then go into candidate opening statements. We have 7 curated questions prepared by the Streets for All steering committee. We'll have time for audience Q&A. If you go to that link up top, which we'll also post in the chat, you can ask the candidates questions and vote on other people's questions. So we'll ask the most popular ones, and then we'll have 1 minute each for candidate closing statement. And I don't know who's echoing, but please mute yourself if you're not speaking. Thank you. Okay, so a few stats for you. And I apologize if you've been to more of our debates this season, but these are important stats to reiterate. So the way we live, so many cars in the city is actually very expensive, and our economy loses $19 billion a year in lost productivity just from people being stuck in traffic. So it's an expensive problem. It's also a very stressful problem. A recent study that unfortunately was conducted in LA, they looked at 2 different freeways, tracked incidents of nighttime domestic violence, and they actually went up 9% on the heaviest traffic days. So we're so stressed out that we're taking it out in really horrible ways. It has an impact on our air. Just by living in LA, you smoke up to 4 cigarettes per day. Of course, that includes our kids. We rank worst in the nation for year-round ozone emissions and 5th worst for particle pollution. We have one of the highest rates of childhood asthma in the country. And public transportation isn't that attractive if you have alternatives, if you can afford alternatives, because it's so slow. The average bus in LA travels at less than 11 miles per hour. That's about the same as someone riding a bike or a scooter. This was one of the most amazing stats to me when I started Streets for All. 2/3 of all trips made in the city of LA are less than 5 miles. 50% are less than 3 miles. So if you have a really long commute to work, I'm not talking about those trips, but people making trips around to their kids' school or running an errand or go to the grocery store, those are the shorter trips that have a lot of potential to not be car trips if we had better infrastructure. So when you add all this up, it's not such a pretty picture, and Streets for All really wants to see this changed and have a more multimodal, healthier city. So this is what CD9 looks like. South LA, a little bit of downtown, really iconic places, the Convention Center, LA Live, Exposition Park, etc. Vermont Square, the Alameda Corridor, really an important part of Los Angeles, one of the densest parts of the city. It's also one of the most dangerous. So the high injury network are the 6% of streets that cause 70% of the injuries and deaths on a street. So they're the extra dangerous streets. CD10 has 10%. It's almost every arterial. I mean, if you look at that, you look like you're looking at a Google map. So it only has 4% of LA streets, but 10% of the high injury network. So CD9 is disproportionately dangerous. And actually, it has most of the high injury network compared to any other council district. This is a map of injuries and deaths. The red represent deaths. The orange dots are injuries. Since the city announced Vision Zero in 2015, 214 people have been killed and over 2,000 people have been injured in traffic crashes just in the district. So we think we can do a lot better here. With that, we're going to go to candidate opening statements. I ask you that you please adhere to time. And we are going to go ahead and start with Adriana, and we're going to rotate among the candidates. Adriana, whenever you're ready.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name's Adriana. I want to start by thanking Streets for All for inviting me to be here today and acknowledging my request to have Spanish interpretation at this debate. We really appreciate the inclusion. I was born and raised here in South Central District 9. I am running to represent the community that raised me because it's time that one of us makes it to City Hall. I've organized in my community for 20 years. I've organized with my neighbors to bring the LA Trade Tech Dream Research Center, the SB60 driver's license for immigrant drivers. Historically, our immigrant families were not allowed to share the road with US citizens without being criminalized. So we organized to change that. And as a first generation, I also co-founded Empowering Youth in South Central, supporting over 5,000 students in my community with their college and career journey so that they can get jobs that often were not available to them. I have 5 years of experience working in the city of Los Angeles. I work with the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, where
Thank
I
you.
train over 300 neighborhood council leaders on how to navigate city costs. And today I serve as president of the Central Alameda Neighborhood Council and as a budget advocate for Region 9.
Thank
I
you.
look forward to tonight's discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris.
All right, can folks hear me and see me?
Yes.
Great. My name is Chris Martin, and I'm running to represent CD9. For me, being born and raised in South Central Los Angeles, and probably the longest tenured resident of CD9 for 37 years, living here my whole life, besides to go to college and law school. Um, I'm a civil rights lawyer because I believe that our community deserves the same safety, dignity, and opportunity as any neighborhood in this city, right? I directed the legal team for Black Lives Matter Los Angeles, where I organized probably the largest pro bono defense effort in the history of this state, where during the George Floyd protests and the uprisings from 2020, organized a team of over 700 lawyers to defend about 900 protesters who were arrested and negotiated with the city attorney to get most of those charges dropped. That's the same level of fight that I'm going to bring to City Hall, not being afraid to hold the large institutions accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. Elmer.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elmer Roldan, and I'm running to represent the district that raised me. I grew up in poverty. My mother cleans houses. My stepdad was a hotel janitor until he retired. I was born in Guatemala and grew up undocumented. I'm a proud graduate of LA Unified Community Colleges, and I went to Cal State Dominguez Hills as well. I am a father of two sons who are 25 and 18. At age 13, I joined Community Coalition, and for the past 30 years, I've fought alongside Black and Latino residents to improve the quality of education in Los Angeles. My professional career has included working at United Way of Greater Los Angeles, LA Unified, and various social justice nonprofits. Today, I'm the executive director of Communities and Schools of Los Angeles. We provide students with social emotional support. And since the pandemic, we've given out $1 million to help families pay for rent. I'm entered this race committed to making our district deliver better city services and more. Thank you.
Thank you. Estuardo.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. My name is Estuardo Mazariegos. I'm a lifelong Angelino, pedestrian, cyclist, and public transportation user. I grew up in LA. I remember picking up my brother literally from the time he was born on the bus. And by the time he was 3 years old, he had a major accident. And that's one of the things that is in the back of my mind as I continue to organize for safety for pedestrians and cyclists. I've been organizing for 20 years to complete the streets in South Los Angeles, from a bike lane to Central Avenue, to just most recently on Wadsworth and Vernon, getting a stoplight put in where Derek Serrano, a 12-year-old seventh grader, was killed. I will continue to organize in South Los Angeles to complete the HLA vision, making sure that we have complete streets, protected bike lanes, and make justice for the most pedestrian, most cyclists, most public transportation using district in the entire city. And that's why I'm here today.
Thank you. Jorge.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jorge Nuno. I was born and raised here in South Central Los Angeles, and I have never left. I'm a son of two immigrant parents from Jalisco, Mexico. My youngest attends Santee High School, and my oldest son is just graduated from Manual Arts and is attending LA Trinity College. For the last 24 years, I've been ran my small business here in South Los Angeles. It's union operated. It's a creative agency. I'm also the founder of The Big House. It's a small business incubator and community space where we've trained youth, supported small businesses, street vendors, and provided space for health and wellness activities. Um, I've held workshops for tenant rights and home ownership and distributed tons of food and immigration rights resources in the last few years. The last month, I celebrated my 20 years of opening my doors to the community. Running because South Central deserves dignity and respect. I'm sick and tired of having to walk, on mattresses or trash or having to walk through dark streets and just witnessing, encampments growing. So we deserve clean and walkable streets, and that's why I'm running.
Thank you. Jose?
Hey, everybody. Thank you, Streets for All, for hosting this debate. It's really important to get our word out there. My name is Jose Ugarte. I was born in Oaxaca, Mexico. I came to Los Angeles when I was 4 years old, undocumented. I became a citizen when I was 18 years old. My first job out of college was working for the LA Federation of Labor, organizing union members for fair wages, benefits, health benefits. I was sent out to Wisconsin, stopping Scott Walker, who was the governor at the time, who was trying to stop labor organizations from unionizing. Came back to LA. I was a coordinator for No on 32, Yes on 30, which brought funds for public schools. I ended up getting a job with the state assemblyman Anthony Rendon. We worked on quality of life issues. We passed the biggest water bond known to the state of California that brought clean water to South LA. Then we banned lead ammunition in the state to make sure the California condor was safe and make it harder for people to buy and obtain bullets in the state of California. After that, I got a job with Councilman Curran Price about 13 years ago. I started working on quality of life issues, renovating parks, renovating streets, and I currently work as the Deputy Chief of Staff.
Thank you. And Martha, you're on mute.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Marta Sanchez. I'm a college professor, therapist, and community activist. I'm a mother of 3 independent adults and a proud grandmother of a 6-year-old. My personal journey has been shaped by resilience and dedication. My long-standing commitment to volunteer work speaks volumes about my dedication to community development. I have led successful campaigns to improve local schools. I have advocated for essential resources, programs, and opportunities designed to foster a safe and clean environment for everyone. Through my years of community leader, I've been actively involved in all aspects of bringing resources and programs to this neighborhood. My service has been mainly as a volunteer, but also served as in the South Central Neighborhood Council for over a decade. And now I'm prepared to embrace an even greater responsibility driven by my belief in making a positive impact that extends beyond my own interests. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to start with our first question. Over to you, Josh.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Michael. So LA has a lot of problems, and whoever becomes council member is going to be trying to solve them during an especially challenging time. The city's budget has been decimated by slower tax revenues, raises, and civil servants without a plan to pay for them, and ever-increasing lawsuit settlements and overspending by the city attorney and LAPD. As a result, budget allocations to departments like LADOT, Streets LA, and the Bureau of Engineering have been cut to the bone. Today, if you report a broken sidewalk, it will take about 10 years to get it fixed. A broken streetlight will take more than 2 years. A pothole could take a year. A speed hump request, multiple years. Our pavement condition index is at a 68 and expected to decrease 2% this year to 66. And at that rate, we will pay out more in lawsuit settlements to people hurt on our streets and sidewalks than we spend fixing them. How do we properly fund our streets and sidewalks so our city is not deteriorating faster than we can fix it? As council member, what would you do to fix this situation? And we're going to start with you, Chris.
All right. Well, the first thing is first, the fact that I have experience in having to sue the city for these issues, or rather the county of Los Angeles, related to a sheriff's deputy who hit a client of mine and had to end up costing the county of Los Angeles about $200,000 for that. So I think that the city's budget is a moral document, and for far too long it's said that CD9 safety doesn't matter. This district is home to essential workers and students and families who rely on walking and transit, but our streets look like they've been neglected for generations. And we need a budget that prioritizes neighborhoods with the greatest need like ours, and not simply the ones with the loudest political power. So that means multi-year funding for bus lanes and protected bike routes and shaded sidewalks and intersections that intersection redesigns in communities like mine. So I think that every dollar that's invested in CD9's mobility is a dollar invested in economic opportunity. And when you give a family safer sidewalks or a faster bus or a working street light, you give them time back to be able to access
Thank you.
the job. Thank you. And you give them dignity. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Elmer, you're next.
Yeah, when I hear the list, you can tell that the city has lost sight of its primary function of delivering these critical services. But I also feel like we need to identify ways of generating more revenues. At the end of the day, we have to fully fund these departments because that is our primary function. And so identifying ways of us raising fees, especially fining those who use the streets of Council District 9 as illegal dumping sites. We have the Olympics here. They are going to be coming to Los Angeles where billions of dollars will be spent on the infrastructure of Los Angeles. And we shouldn't only think about it as a 2-week event, but rather what the next 20 years will look like, and incentivizing developers to invest in safety measures, not only for streets, but also for multimodal methods in the district.
Thank you. Estuardo?
Yeah, hi. I mean, I would begin by looking at extending Measure M so it could be a longer term project beyond the 40 years. Also make sure that we prioritize the Lime City District. Look, as a person that rides scooters and rides bikes and walks in the neighborhood, I see the tale of two cities. As soon as you go south of MLK, it's an entirely different city. Just the other day, I was riding a scooter past south of MLK and I thought there was an ADA ramp. I hit the curve and flipped out. And I said, hey, that needs to change. That's not fair for the folks in my neighborhood. So that's an equity question as well, is making sure that our folks get their fair share and more. Apart from that, I would also look how we're looking at our budget proposals or our budget at the city level as a value statement and looking where we're overspending, like the police department, to make sure that we fund things like the DOT. Those things are super important in communities like CD9 because we have so many folks that are wheelchair bound that need more access.
Thank you. Jorge?
I look at this as an equity issue. When we look at the city, when elected, my time and energy is about really talking to the council so we could address the inequities that we've had for decades. You always look at South Central Los Angeles, always left behind on resources. We brag about all our assets like the Coliseum and the Staples Center, but how are they contributing to our streets? If you look at the reports, you have thousands of cars that go to the watch the soccer games or come to the Coliseum. I think those partners and those assets in our community to contribute more into our infrastructure. If they're using to generate income, why aren't they paying a higher fee with all those with that traffic, especially around our transportation? So I think we need to look at all our current partners and assets in our community and see how they're contributing to some of the infrastructure that's way that's behind compared to the rest of the city. So that's some way of generating income.
Thank you. Marta, you're next.
Josh, I think you skipped Jose.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jose.
Hey, we are raising some fees to help us fix the budget. I've been working on that. We had $1 billion budget deficit this past couple of years. We made sure that employees were not affected. We're consolidating some departments to make sure they work better. There's some fees that are going to be heightened a little bit because of our waste. Hasn't been changed in the past 30 years. We're also looking at some taxes, property taxes on lighting that hasn't been changed the last 30 years as well. But I'm also willing to do my part. I told everybody I'm willing to take a 10% cut as a council member. We are the highest paid council in the entire nation. And I think you got to do your part to make sure that jobs are safe. And also I want to make sure that we prioritize public safety and we do not take any funding from public safety issues that we just passed. HLA is the number one issue that we got to make sure it's funded to make sure that traffic fatalities are lowered. Vision Zero as well that we can talk about a little bit later.
Thank you. Marta?
Thank you. In addition to what has been said, I would like to frame the debate. When we talk about public safety, we know that the key aspects of the city budget are going more often to mayor expenses related with police and fire departments, sanitation, infrastructure. I believe that if we kind of like made this case in a very human framework, I would say that fixing the broken sidewalks, cutting the trees, fixing the roofs that are lifting the sidewalks, all those branches covering the lights, the traffic lights are a safety problem. So if we kind of like cut services that are not really necessary for our community, we can allocate correctly the money for core services like maintaining the street services, maintaining the public safety, and also like finding new ways to prevent
Thank you, Marta.
liabilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Adriana.
So our city should have a budget that reflects our values. We have a budget over $12 billion. So the money to build a strong transportation infrastructure is there. It's just not a priority for our council member and our elected officials because they just funded $2.6 billion for one building. One building. While our sidewalks are broken, lights do not work, parks don't even have working toilets. So when elected, I will make sure that we prioritize community first budget and one that prioritizes intersectional community building efforts like housing, jobs, public transportation, and most importantly, investing in local talent. South Central has so much talent, and one way to generate revenue is by providing jobs to our community because that's the real problem here. A lot of these jobs pay good money, but they're not accessible to us. And we extend those economic opportunities, the money will flow. Thank you.
Okay, I think I'm up next. So Measure HLA passed last year with 2/3 of the vote, and for the first time in LA history, mandating that the city implement things like bike lanes, bus lanes, and pedestrian improvements every time it repairs and works on streets is the law. Unfortunately, despite the overwhelming result, the city has been slow to implement Measure HLA, and city departments have mostly slow walked or even tried to sidestep and avoid implementation. So the question is, did you vote for Measure HLA last year? And do you support its goals? And will you work to force a reluctant city bureaucracy to implement the will of the voters and implement our mobility plan anytime we touch streets? And lastly, do you believe Measure HLA should apply to metro projects on city streets? This is especially relevant to Vermont Avenue. So Elmer, we'll start with you.
The answer is yes to all three questions. And I believe that with Measure HLA, we have to have a SAR who is in charge. So I'm committed to having that in my office, someone whose job it is to ensure that all the different departments are not only talking to one another, but making sure that we are delivering on the promise of Measure HLA. We keep hearing in this debate that lives have been lost because the city has not prioritized the safety of pedestrians, bike riders, and people with disabilities. And if we want to change those trends, if we want to save lives, we have to ensure that we hold the bureaucrats accountable, but more importantly, that we ensure that there's communication across the different departments that are in charge of making sure that we make our streets safe. And that's what I'm committed to doing.
Thank you. Estuardo?
Can you hear me? Yeah. Hey, so yeah, voted yes on Measure HLA. Also campaigned for Measure HLA here in South Los Angeles. Had a sign in my front yard and everything. And of course, I will be fighting for the implementation of HLA. Been doing that already. Look, I'm a cyclist. I ride my bicycle almost every other day, if not almost every day, to go to work, to drop off my child. I try to walk as much as possible. And I've campaigned to get bike lanes on Central Avenue, which was a complete street. I've campaigned to get bike lanes on MLK, which was a complete street. I need to make sure that the hardest working people, that the folks that ride the bus, the folks that use the bicycle out of necessity, not out of recreation, have as much as possible to be able to travel in their own community safely. I definitely will continue to champion HLA. I think that has to be prioritized in the ninth city district and making sure that the Vermont corridor also gets its full implementation of bus lanes and pedestrian and cycling safety.
Thank you. Jorge?
And that's yes to all three questions myself. I also, I was part of the environmental impact report team that came out to Vermont to study the Vermont corridor, and we need to implement that plan. But I think part of just not only planning and having ideas is make sure it's implemented, we follow through. I will also have a lead in my office, making sure that every department is making sure that we get our lanes. I know we're going to have lanes on Central Avenue, then move it to Avalon. I think Central Avenue needs lanes. I think a few years ago we had a death on Central Avenue. Just recently, like Estuardo said, with one of a middle schoolers from Carver Middle School. So again, these HLA needs to be implemented and need to be funded. So as a council member, I'm going to be very supportive behind this initiative, making sure it gets implemented and executed.
Thank you. Jose?
Of course, I voted for HLA. I worked on it. I raised money for it. I got labor behind it. I got elected officials behind it. Obviously, I'm going to make sure it gets implemented in the city. I don't need a liaison to do that. I'm going to do it myself as council member. And it's obvious. 2015, we passed a mobility plan, and 10 years later, it failed us. We haven't reached what we were supposed to. So HLA meant everything to make sure this got done. Obviously, when we do any kind of retrofits to cities or redo a street, we got to implement what we started in 2015. So yes, and I also believe it should be applied to the county. If the city's doing it, the county should do it as well.
Thank you. Martha?
Yes, to all three questions. I would like to add that in July 2020, I partnered with Damien from Street Art for Everyone to demand justice for Roberto Diaz, the 15-year-old student that was run over when he was buying a soda in a nearby market. But also, I was able to organize the community and so many aspects to improve those transit corridors. I was able to organize for different school sites around the community to improve the quality of life for pedestrians, bicyclists, and drivers in different school sites like Clayton Middle School, Dolores Huerta, 28th Street School, Harmony, Maple Primary Center, and other school sites as well. Unfortunately, the fatalities are still taking place and we have to do more. And I'm very committed to make sure that this plan is fully implemented.
Thank you. Adriana?
Do you say Adriana?
I did.
Okay. So yes, I support the goals of HLA because safer streets saves lives. And I also ride my bike on Vermont corridor. I commute really frequently on that corridor. I take the bus every week. And so I support the goals to redesign and protect bike lanes and honor safety so that we can safely ride our bikes without having to worry about being run over by a car. I'll work across departments. I'll work with the Department of Transportation and Planning to ensure projects are implemented timely. And I also support Measure HLA applying to metro projects.
Thank you. Sorry, Chris.
All right. So first of all, what I want to say is that one of the most important things that we can do is to make sure that Streets for All has a seat at the table on this issue. Because y'all are ultimately the experts. I'm not going to purport to be an expert on this issue, but what the most important thing is that I can do is I can include the experts in the room with me. And that includes making sure that y'all have my number so that we can talk about these issues. And includes, being able to put folks from Streets for All on my staff so we can have experts on the team on these issues. Now, Measure HLA was a promise that voters made to themselves that our streets would finally be built for the people and not just for cars. And I think that in our district, this is a transformative opportunity because for South Central, HLA is not just nice to have, but ultimately it's justice. It's about giving kids safe routes to schools like Carver Middle School, where I grew up and still live to this day, and making sure that bus riders, many of whom don't have the luxury of owning a car, get reliable service that they deserve. And it's about building the infrastructure that other districts already enjoy. So I will make HLA make sure that it's implemented fully, aggressively, and equitably in CD9. And I look forward to working with y'all on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the answer is yes to all three questions. Thank you.
Okay. Over to you, Josh.
All right. So as I'm sure everyone here knows, the cost of housing is far too high in Los Angeles. 59% of Angelenos are rent burdened, meaning they're spending more than 30% of their income on rent. 20% of Angelenos are severely rent burdened, spending more than half of their income on rent. This year, we sponsored SB 79, a bill designed to encourage denser housing around transit. While it's important, it's not enough, and there remain significant barriers to building the housing we need in LA to truly bring down the cost of rent. As candidates, what do you think about SB 79? Do you support it? And how would you solve the housing affordability crisis in Los Angeles and bring the cost of housing down? And we're going to start with Estuardo.
Hey, yeah, I support the implementation of SB 79. I would say it has to be done in an equitable way. I think we do need to build housing, especially in transit-orientated communities. Early in my life were lived in East Hollywood next to the Red Line, and I saw how when new rail came into a neighborhood, how it also forced displacement without protection for tenants. And that's what I'm talking about. We need to be able to do inclusive zoning for all the new development that will be coming into our communities because of SB 79, and also look beyond our neighborhoods, opening up affordable housing and high resource neighborhoods like on the west side and in the valley. And also, I would look at all the different transportation corridors in South LA. Vermont corridor is going to be one of them. We have the one on Expo. And then also along the Blue Line, we need to be able to develop affordable housing for very low income, extremely low income folks at that point.
Great. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in support of SB 79. I think like any new policy, we need to put some good guardrails. Because if we learn from experiences from other communities that when they activate, affordable housing around transit areas, there's always developers figuring out a way how do we not produce more affordable housing. So for me, is making sure we look at that policy, put some real guardrails in any land that the city owns that we could build deeply affordable housing in those neighborhood in those blocks. For me, is not just we know we need affordable housing, but it's how can we get more of our community included in that process? Even also creating cohorts and funding opportunities for community to invest their own dollars to build affordable housing in these projects. So I think we need to think of the changes that are coming, but have our community be in the front and also at the table when we're discussing affordable housing and development opportunities. So I want to include my community in also investing in those spaces. Thank you.
All right. Jose?
I also support SB 79. It's a big deal for me because I know a lot of people, the biggest issue in CD9 is always parking. People will say, hey, it's parking, it's parking, it's parking. And that was the pushback with SB 79. It's not going to allow, you don't need parking when you build, but it's okay when you have a transit corridor. And I tell people this, I want to build a train down Slauson from the LA River to Venice Beach. And I want it to go straight down the middle of my district. And I want housing all around it. I need SB 79 to be effective, to be there so I can implement that. Also, the housing crisis is probably the biggest crisis we've ever had right now in the city of LA. I want to build housing around SB 79, around transit corridors, like Estuardo said. Vermont is a big transit corridor. It's going to have the Lucas Museum right there. It has USC. And I want to be able to bring affordable housing to that areas. And yes, thank you.
Marta?
Are you calling someone?
Yeah. Marta.
Thank you. I'm a strong supporter of AB 79. I truly believe that increasing housing density will help in some way. I want to be very careful about talking about affordable housing because affordable means so many things for so many people. But I want to bring a very good example of a housing project that I was able to promote and support, the crossing of 29th Street School. I was being really committed to improve the industrial corridor that was there across the street from the 28th Street School. We were able to bring this 100% affordable housing units. There is many spaces like that we can improve and create more housing opportunities. We can not only see along transit corridors, but we have a lot of empty spaces that haven't been developed since the 1992 riots. And there is so many CEQA process that we can model to allow the construction of those opportunities as well.
Thank you. Adriana?
Mhm.
So I support SB 79, but only with the Strategic Actions for a Just Economy amendments, which is also known as SAGE. I trust them. They have been years leading anti-gentrification, anti-displacement in District 9, and the amendments that they propose ensure that development protects renters and expands affordability. So they also require affordable units for lower income families, which is 80% or 70% of the people in our district. So it also delays implementations in lower resources areas until safeguards are in place. My priority will be to protect the interests of families who live or own property in District 9, not corporations. At the same time, I comprehend that we must uplift what our community really needs. So we need parking that supports multi-generational households and spaces where family repurpose the parking spots. I've also have gotten held at gunpoint from not having parking accessible to me from coming from work. So I understand the importance of having safety and parking. But my goal is to build housing, protect renters, and grow ownership without pushing us out.
Thank you. Chris?
Yes, so first of all, I want to say that I do support SB 79, and I'll be the first to admit that parking is terrible on 43rd and Central Avenue where I live, and that, something definitely needs to be done about that. In this district, the cost of housing, I think, is directly tied to the cost of transportation. I think that families spend more on transportation than on almost anything else because our city never invested in mobility options that reduce dependence on cars. When you build communities where people can safely walk, bike, or take rapid transit, I think that you lower their cost of living because you give them choices and you reduce the need for multiple cars, expensive insurance, and gas costs. Now, with that being said, I think that by pairing housing with transit corridors, bus lanes, and protected bike routes and shaded pedestrian networks, we can help families save money and stay in the neighborhoods that they love, stay in South Central, stay in CD9. And that these investments ultimately can help to keep families safe. Thank you.
Elmer?
Yeah, I feel like the housing crisis requires a menu of options in order for us to help us get out of the hole that we're in. And SB 79 is definitely a part of that menu in my book. I feel like it will be a solution for certain parts of the district, and that is a viable option that we need to activate. I feel like we also need to create more multi-purpose development that incentivizes retail to come to the community. We need to use some of those incentives to support mom and pop or family-owned businesses to operate in those buildings. I also think that the affordability is about increasing wages and ensuring that people have the type of jobs that provide for them so that they can move into these new units. And we need to give priority to city workers, students, and others in order for us to ensure that those properties are serving the needs of the community and neighborhoods.
Thank you. Our next question is about enforcement of traffic laws. Automated traffic enforcement can both increase enforcement of our laws and decrease unwanted interactions with armed police officers during routine traffic stops. In the past few years, California has legalized speed cameras, which the City of LA is in the process of implementing, and refined red light cameras to make them work better for cities. There is also a proposal to legalize noise cameras, which would ticket illegally loud exhaust noise from cars. The question is, what is your opinion of this trend of automated enforcement? Do you support cameras as a better way to enforce traffic laws? And if not, how do you suggest we clamp down on drivers that speed, run red lights, and or disturb the peace with illegally loud exhaust? And we'll start with Jorge.
I do support some automation, but I think we have to be really careful how the system could be biased towards Black and Brown communities. I know there's been studies in other cities that shows that, you know, it might be criminalize certain groups and others. So I think we have to be really careful and really kind of pilot that in the city of Los Angeles and South Los Angeles. I understand the city is trying to get more revenue, but if it's at the cost of our community, I think I'm going to be really cautious of how we move forward with automation. So I think, you know, I think it's a smart way to work on a pilot scale, but I think in our communities, I think there's other priorities for me to focus on. But I'm just going to be cautious with this approach. Thank you.
Thank you. Jose?
Yeah, I agree with George. I think it's going to affect South LA the most. It's going to affect Black and Brown communities the most. So you got to be careful of the implementation of it. I do support putting it on thoroughfares that have a lot of issues. Like, what is the number one traffic fatality is in our district, Figueroa and Slauson, I believe. I definitely support putting cameras there, all kinds of cameras, street light cameras, run red light cameras, illegal exhaust cameras. That's okay. And along high metro, high train areas, along Washington, along the Expo Center. But in our community, it's going to be tough. I don't want people getting a ticket in the mail and then looking back. What did I do? It happens to me. I'm a culprit. I got a ticket the other day. I had no idea what it was. And for me to try to fight it, to go online and do all that, it's the people who are going to be hurt are the ones that are most vulnerable, which is our community. So I got to be careful where we put them. But I do support on putting on high traffic, high violation areas.
Thank you. Artha?
I do also agree with my friends. Is that it's very difficult to file a ticket when you don't have a person testifying against the wrongdoing that is happening, right? What works for some doesn't work for all. In our community, we are being surveilled all the time, that everyone is looking at us. We are being targeted by no reason all the time. Like, having cameras in very strategic areas will be fine, but not everywhere. And it is very costly to have cameras in specific areas where traffic has to flow really, really fast. And also, like, having opportunities for improvement in specific transit corridors will also have a, you know, I have to bring community members to think about it. I have to bring community voices.
Thank you.
To discuss what is better. Thank you.
Thank you. Adriana?
So traffic stops by armed officers are costly and dangerous to our Black and Brown communities. I've lost family to police violence, so I know the system must change, but automatic enforcement is not the answer. Right now, we have the ICE raids in our community taking hundreds of people. And one way that they are taking them is by surveillance, data sharing with federal overreach. So right now, unless it can be guaranteed that this data is not going to be shared with the wrong people, I will not be supporting camera enforcement. There are other ways that we can improve public safety. And one way that we can also increase enforcement is requiring community service and civic education to those who break the law, so that they can understand why they need to respect the traffic law. Safety must protect both lives and our freedom.
Thank you. Chris?
Thank you. The first thing that I would say is, don't just put it in the Black and Brown community, and don't just put it in CD9. Though it is true that CD9 contains some of the most dangerous corridors in the city of Los Angeles, and we have lost too many lives to speeding and reckless driving, I do believe that automated enforcement, when done equitably and transparently, can possibly save lives in our community. because it does take that enforcement out of the hands of the police, where for me, there was a legitimate fear that a traffic stop could ultimately end up in police brutality or worse. And we do need to reduce the likelihood of that happening. And myself, as a civil rights lawyer who sues cops for a living who brutalize my people, like that is particularly important to me. And automated enforcement can help with that, but it can't be punitive towards low-income residents, or just strictly towards Black and Brown people who live in CD9. And I do support, perhaps, if it were to happen, maybe income-based fines or warning periods, and focusing cameras only in corridors with documented danger.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Elmer.
I sat on the LA City's Traffic Enforcement Task Force, and we provided a full report to the City Council with recommendations on how to address these issues. Unfortunately, those recommendations are still yet to be fully implemented. But I do believe that cameras should be part of the menu that as an option for us to enforce and save lives. But I also believe that it starts with us redesigning streets. We have to ensure that street lights are better implemented and that streets are equipped with things like left turning lanes, wider walkways, and technology that supports the safety of pedestrians and cyclists, not only the enforcement of traffic violations, and then also the education, reminding folks that vehicles can be a weapon, and if we misuse them, harm it can be caused on human beings. And so ensuring that also multiple offenders and DUI drivers are receiving that type of punishment when they're causing harm to others.
Thank you. Estuardo.
Yeah, so I worked on a campaign called the Great Streets Campaign a few years ago, probably close to a decade ago at this point. And that was about making sure that these intersections like Figueroa and Slauson, Broadway and Manchester, six of the most dangerous intersections are in our neighborhood, had full implementation of all the different things that we can do to keep cyclists and pedestrians safe, like roundabouts, bulb outs on the corners, making sure that we have all ways crossing for pedestrians. Also in schools, we should be including crossing guards for our kids. I think that the mass surveillance of our communities and the over-policing of communities in South Central is an epidemic that has definitely hurt a lot of our folks. So putting in cameras has to be done thoughtfully, and also making sure that they don't collaborate with ICE, especially because our communities are majority immigrant.
Thank you. Josh.
Thank you. So this is kind of a cousin question. It's about Vision Zero. There are more miles of the city's high injury network in CD9 than any other council district, despite having one of the smallest percentages of the city's entire road network. This is all despite CD9 having lower car ownership rates than most parts of LA. Not only are many streets and neighborhoods suffering from underinvestment and deadly design, but residents are being killed and injured from people driving through the district who live outside of the district. What will you do as council member to make the roads in CD9 safer? Do you support proven solutions to reducing speeding and reckless driving, like road diets, speed bumps, and other self-enforcing infrastructure? And we're going to start with you, Jose.
And sorry, just to clarify, in case everybody doesn't know what Vision Zero is, Vision Zero doesn't mean there's never going to be crashes. That's impossible. Vision Zero means that when there are crashes, nobody dies. And the way you do that, there are cities that have accomplished this throughout the world, including some in the US. The way you do that is speed control. At 20 miles per hour, most people survive. At 40 miles per hour, most people are dead. So that's the idea behind Vision Zero in LA. Just wanted to give a little more context, just in case.
Thanks, Michael. All right, Jose.
You took my first 20 minutes. I was going to talk about that. 2015, Vision Zero was implemented by the time Mayor Eric Garcetti. The goal was to have zero deaths by 2025. And about 2 years ago, we audited, two different companies audited it, and they found it was a failure. We were not even close. We weren't going to get there. And so we haven't. It's Vision Zero is a failure to us. We have not implemented what we're supposed to. In our district alone, we implemented some road diets. Hasn't been fully implemented. We don't have funding. We just did a couple road diets along King Boulevard. We split the street in two, put a center divider to make sure we slowed cars down. We made sure that we stopped donuts from happening, and it's helping a little bit. We also closed the street down. We're going to close it down once a month to get people to ride their bikes and walk and just slow down traffic. That's the goal. And that's what I want to keep going. I'm going to keep doing that along Avalon Boulevard. I want to start every month like they do in other countries. They close down the whole street from King to Slauson along Avalon, and make sure that no cars can go by. It's only walkable, bikeable, and it's going to connect all our parks from South Park to Gilbert Lindsay to the wetlands to our rail-to-rail park along Slauson. That's my goal.
I think we stopped sharing your screen, Michael. Do other people see it?
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, Martha.
I totally agree that the implementation has been really neglected, and it's not just funding, but also the education piece that is not being taken in consideration. The community have no idea where to go when some fatalities happen. They constantly call the city for bringing resources and programs that will prevent students to get hit by a car, especially when they're coming out of school, cross guards when they're coming to school or going back to home. There's so many things that haven't been implemented, and this specific community has been neglected in all senses all the time. So I want to look on that program, and I want to make sure that the program is still valuable and still makes sense for the community needs, and kind of bring the community members to participate and kind of enforce or look for improvements.
Thank you. Adriana?
So every year we lose many neighbors to traffic violence, and Vision Zero must mean real investment, protected bike lanes, safe crossing, lighting, and transit priority, especially here in our side of town where our streets carry heavy traffic, but we get the fewest upgrades. So we must invest in community-driven initiatives like expanding community programs like Ciclavia. In our district, we have multiple running clubs like Barrio Athletics, South Central Run. We need to invest in these community initiatives. We also have corridors like Avalon full of street vendors, loncheras, small businesses. They keep us safe. They keep our traffic, our community safe as well, and we need to honor them and fund them. And we must work across departments to ensure every project includes local hiring. We have a lot of artists, artistic opportunities, greenery, and design that reflects our cultural identity. Streets must be safe without community erasure.
Thank you. Chris?
Yes, it does seem like the implementation of Vision Zero was something of a failure. I do believe that ultimately, the slower that cars go, the safer things will be for pedestrians when they're hit. Out in Compton, they've got more speed bumps out there and structures in the streets to prevent things like reckless driving and donuts and that kind of thing. I've been talking to Councilman Andre Spicer out there, and that's just like some of the things that he's done to be able to reduce the number of fatalities that have been occurring out there in Compton. And that's something that's been working. People do donuts on my street all the time. So, when I'm councilman, that's something that I would do. I would make sure that there are more structures in the street to prevent reckless driving, donuts, and things that put our communities at risk, our pedestrians at risk. Thank you.
Elmer?
Yeah, the current council member and his staff have shown a willingness to do this. It's just only been done around USC. Anywhere else around the district, what we've gotten has been bits and pieces of what could potentially be. And that is what we need to change, is that we have to look at the district in a comprehensive way. We have to value the parts of the district that have been disenfranchised and not looked at as valuable enough because it's Black and brown bodies that travel through those parts of the district. And we have to, again, give priority to the folks who are the driving engine of this district. So I think City Council for decades has been giving excuses as to why we can't do this. There really hasn't been the political will or the courage in order for us to fight for the parts of the working class and the southern parts of the district that deserve more dignity when it comes to these issues.
Great. Estuardo.
Yeah, I have been organizing around this issue for the most part of my organizing career. I started with trying to get a bike lane on Central Avenue. I'm an avid cyclist in the neighborhood, and I see it every day. Out of the 20 deadliest intersections, 6 of them are in CD9, and 3 are literally across the border from CD9 and CD8. CD9 has the highest rate of cyclists involved, injuries, or that result in deaths. So it's definitely something that we need to take care of. Vision Zero, I was super excited when it first came out. And one of the places that I saw the lack of implementation was literally on Central Avenue, where I campaigned for over 2 years to get that bike lane in, to get the complete streets done. And I was stopped quite literally by the current council member and the staff as well. It was heartbreaking to see the communities in CD9 be forgotten, and we need to change that now.
All right.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on Estuardo and Elmer. I think this administration has really not prioritized the most needed streets in our community. I think when I think of Vision Zero, I think it was just a concept that no one took serious, but they did cherry pick it just to serve a certain interest groups like USC. I think for me, we need to reintroduce this concept back to our community and to the council as a whole so we could re-energize it and focus. So for me, as a council member, I'm going to really look really close to it and really bring it forward again. Because I think, the concept is great, but if there's no follow through and implementation, this is just a lip service. So it's kind of, it's 10 years since this plan had been in place, but no one really, implemented. So for me, we need to really introduce it to our community and to the council again and see what commitment we're gonna give each other to make sure that our streets are safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, in the interest of time, we're gonna not ask you guys if you like Waymos. We're gonna skip that question. We're gonna go to our last curated question, and then we're gonna take hopefully audience questions. You don't need to take the full minute. So if you say what you need to say in 30 seconds, we'll move on. So our last question is about Vermont. Vermont Avenue is the busiest transit corridor in the county. Metro's current bus rapid transit project envisions a new dedicated bus stations, bus-only lanes, but it does exclude HLA-mandated bike lanes on Vermont. A lawsuit has been filed asking a judge to force the city and Metro to comply with Measure HLA. So as council member, you would be influential here, representing the district. The question's two-part. Do you support the Vermont BRT? And if so, do you support implementing HLA on Vermont, including a bike lane on Vermont, even if it came at the expense of street parking on the street? Adriana, we'll start with you.
So I support the Vermont BRT because I ride the bus in Vermont every week, and I also ride my bike, so I know at firsthand the need to have a bike lane there. Anytime that we cut parking for any small businesses, I will prioritize to have a community hearing where us businesses are invited to be a part of that conversation. It is important for us to make sure that we keep them in mind when implementing measures. And I will also support in making sure that the city complies with the HLA implementation. So making sure that our community really understands the benefits of having the bike lanes, even if it's at cost of parking. However, in our community, a lot of people rely on public transportation, including our business owners. So we got to make sure that as we build public transit, that we integrate their voices.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, so I think that the Vermont corridor is one of the busiest transit corridors in the country, and our residents have had to wait for overcrowded buses stuck in traffic every single day. So the BRT must deliver dedicated lanes, all-door boarding, frequent service, and safe pedestrian and bike improvements, and not just watered down, not just not be delayed and not negotiate this stuff away. I think for CD9, this project is about correcting a century of inequitable investment. And it's about giving working families rapid transit line that respects their time. So I do support the BRT, and I do support ensuring that Measure HLA standards, including safe bike and pedestrian connections, are fully integrated. When it comes to having that be at the expense of street parking, I don't support not being or there being like less parking, especially based on where I come from, where there is literally everybody's double parked on where I come from. So I would have to have a conversation with y'all about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Elmer?
So I understand that there's a temporary build out for the BRT that's done by the Olympics, and then there's a more permanent plan that's supposed to be implemented after the Olympics. And so I think we need to be vigilant in order to make sure that the city keeps up its commitment to ensure that it delivers with fidelity. So yes, I do support the Vermont BRT. Yes, I do support implementing HLA on Vermont. And I do think we need to take lessons from the Crenshaw line and the way that Metro fumbled its community engagement plans, and learn from those and hire someone who is top tier to ensure that we are engaging businesses so that they have a voice and understand the benefits that can come from implementing better bike lanes, and having this bus line provide a service that, as we all described here, is desperately needed because of how many people depend on this bus route. And so I am for it, and I would fight for us to have better, more equitable distribution of resources.
Thank you. Estuardo?
Yeah, I believe in having a vision for the city that decentralizes the car as the main mode of transportation. And the Vermont corridor is one of those places that we can complete that vision. Vermont is the most traveled transit corridor in the Western United States. You go up and down Vermont from the north side to the south side of town. Every bus stop is full. There's folks walking down Vermont. It's one of my favorite places to go because you literally see the humanity engaging each other on Vermont. And to be able to have a complete BRT, a complete transit corridor, will serve that goal of making sure that Los Angeles is further connected, that we are living together, that we share in our humanity, riding the buses on the streets, talking to our neighbors, connecting with one another. And I fully do believe as well that we need to make sure that the engagement is equitable so people understand what the values that we're getting in when we do travel on bus and do public transportation together.
Thank you. Jorge?
Yeah, I definitely support the Vermont BRT. Like I mentioned earlier, I was part of the environmental report team that was out there doing outreach in the community, listening to community members, listening to small businesses. And one thing me as a business owner, if we are going to invest so much dollars in Vermont, we should also obviously add the bike lanes. But as we talk about parking, we can look at models like, in Santa Monica where they'll have parking structures across the Vermont to allow small business to be, utilize those spaces. And maybe afterwards, the community could use them for parking. So I think there's an opportunity for us to really think, innovatively and look at other communities to really provide those parking spaces for small businesses, but still allow that corridor to be vibrant and commercially viable for any business that opens up there. So it will be an impact, but we got to learn from the Crenshaw corridor and not make those same mistakes.
Thank you. Jose?
I hesitantly support the Vermont BRT. I wanted a light rail on Vermont to connect us to Carson, all the way down south of Vermont, and then to Elysian Park, north of Vermont. And I wanted to go to connect the Lucas Museum, USC, the Expo line, for us to have a light rail to go up and down the city. if you look at our district, there's only the closest light rail to us is Long Beach line and then the Crenshaw line, and nothing in the middle. And something on Vermont would have been perfect. But if that's what we get for the BRT, I support it now 100%. We need to implement it ASAP to make sure it's in time for the Olympics. It's going to be one of our biggest transit corridors to make sure that Olympians travel on it, take it to the Coliseum. And then the bike lanes, I support only bike lanes that are protected. I'm not going to support any other bike lanes that are not protected. Bike lanes are right now as dangerous as it can be. Ask Estuardo. So if with the protected bike lane, I would 100% support it, and HLA is going to do that on the Vermont BRT.
Thank you. Martha.
Seems that I'm gonna repeat what has been said, but I truly support the plan, and I also want to make sure that community residents are involved in the process as well, because there is no successful plan without community involvement. The business owners are very instrumental on like building a better communication, and then I truly want to echo on Jorge Nuno plan of bringing spaces. Public parking structures are extremely needed, not just on that corridor, but everywhere around USC with all this development happening with the Olympics and everything. We're gonna need parking structures everywhere, because a lot of people will need that opportunity so they can come and enjoy the Olympics. So I think that everything has been said already, and I truly support the full implementation.
Okay, here's the deal. It's 6:38. I need to give you 7 minutes for closing. That's 6:45. So if you can take less than 1 minute, please do. We can get through as many audience questions as possible. We'll do our best. The first question was for Jose. So I'm going to ask it, but then I'm going to kind of broaden it because I'd like everybody to be able to chime in. So the question for Jose is, current price declined to endorse Measure HLA when it was on the ballot, and according to this person, hasn't been a champion for its proper implementation. As his staffer, how will you be different than him? And maybe we can just make that a question for everybody. Like, what would you do differently compared to the current council member? Go ahead, Jose. Go ahead.
I worked on Measure HLA myself. Ask anybody that's Michael. He'll confirm. I worked on it. I made sure that labor got behind it. I made sure that we raised funds for it. I made sure people collected signatures for it. And that's the difference between me and my councilman, my boss. That I'm my own self-thinker. I do things on my own. I support it 100%, obviously, because I made sure it got implemented. I'm going to make sure it gets implemented. So yes, I worked on it, and it's something I'm proud of. Make sure we passed it by 60%, Michael?
The final was about 66. Yeah. Okay, Martha?
Thank you. Again, no plans are successful without community involvement. The community voices are very fundamental in major projects like housing, transportation, and utilities. But I also want to include the neighborhood councils. They have been officially elected by community residents. I want to support independent oversight groups as well to bring more insight about the projects, and also kind of like keep us accountable to people, the people that are voting for us, not just corporation, not just like any entity that are not really living in the community, but also having more people bringing input about what is going to happen in their community and how they're going to be impacted.
Thank you. Adriana?
Can you repeat the question?
What would you do differently from the current council member? How would you be different?
I will make sure that we put community first. Our council member often chooses who he partners up with. I've been in the neighborhood council. I've emailed his office multiple times and I get ignored. A lot of us serve our community in the neighborhood councils through volunteership, and it is a reflection in our city. Every week when we have to take votes on rental related items, our council member has to recuse himself because of federal investigations. I will make sure as a renter that I prioritize 70% of the district, which are renters, but also homeowners, so that they too can sit at the table with developers and together, along with the houseless community, can come with concrete solutions and not just a selected few. So you have to make commitment to put community first and create a co-governance space in City Hall.
Thank you. Chris.
Yeah, so I'll be succinct here in the interest of time. I think we will have to include neighborhood councils and community organizations and also include the homeowners to make sure that everybody has a seat at the table. I think we have to have town halls to really give people a voice and to make sure that they are heard on these issues before we just go and make decisions without consulting the people who live in the community who are going to be the most impacted and affected by the decisions that we make. Thank you.
Thank you. Elmer?
Yeah, different than the current council member is I would actually listen to residents and I would organize to ensure that communities not only understand what the city is proposing, but also the benefits of measures like HLA that folks desperately want and need, and ensuring that that we are proactively going out and seeking those voices and listening to folks on all sides of the district. Because at the end of the day, our job is to take care of both CD9 North and CD9 South, but making sure that we activate the wealth that is in the district in the northern part and bring some of that love south to ensure that we are making this part of the district more livable, healthy, and safe for residents.
Eduardo.
Yeah, look, I about 10 years ago was working on a project to complete the streets on Central Avenue. One of the biggest heartbreaks I've had in my organizing career was how the current council member and their staff blocked an incredible project that had funds in place that was going to save lives, that we've already lost lives because of the lack of political will to complete that bike lane on Central Avenue. I ride my bike and I know how to ride my bike, and I've seen older folks ride their bikes here in in South Los Angeles. It is incredibly hard and it can be safe, but we need to have the political will to finish those projects like Central Avenue. We need to have the political will to finish projects like the bike lane on MLK. We need to connect our community. One of the ways that we're segregated is by not completing those streets. We have the most bicycle riders, the most pedestrians and public transportation riders in the entire city, and we need justice for them now.
Thank you. Jorge.
I think like all of us here, we all feel that we could do a lot more than the current council member. I think the lack of political will that we face all the time with this office, when we have these studies and these surveys, we're bringing that information to the council member to say, hey, this is what we need in our community. But there's always some kind of interest group that doesn't allow him to really execute any plan. So I think a lot of us that are running for this office feels that we're not being heard, the community's not being heard, and they're not being brought to the table. For me, as your council member, we got to be all the table together. We're going to make things happen. But again, is that we need to re-energize and end this chapter in CD9. And I think that's why we are running here, because we're sick and tired of just nothing getting really done. And all we get is excuses. So I'm sorry, but we have to keep it 100.
Thank you. I'm looking at the time. If you guys think you can keep it to 30 seconds, I'll ask two more. But just in case, I'm going to ask this one because I think it might be a good one to end on if we don't get there. To you, what is most special and worth celebrating about CD9? What should the rest of the city know about these communities? We'll start with Elmer.
Look, CD9 is the cultural heart of the rest of the city, hands down. We have the best food, best people, best music all around. Obviously, CD9 entertains the world. We have the museums that people come to visit. LA Live is here, and soon we will be hosting the Olympics. So people want to come to CD9. But at the end of the day, it is all the folks that live here, that work here, that make this district not only beautiful, but worth fighting for.
Thank you. And 30 seconds. Estuardo.
Yeah, CD9 is the heart and soul of the city of Los Angeles. We're the hardest working people. We're the youngest councilmatic district in the city. We're the future of Los Angeles. I truly feel that if we recreate the city in the image of folks in CD9, and we have CD9, we have the city working for the folks in CD9, for the kids in CD9, for the 37% of the children who live below the poverty line in CD9, we'll have a better city. If we fix the public transportation, the transportation issues in our community, we will have a better city. Thank you.
Jorge?
You know, CD9 is my home, been my parents' home, my kids' home, and when I invite my friends over and um, show them a restaurant that got a Michelin rating, that they could come here to South LA. We could go down Central and check out the Jazz Festival. There's so many arts and so much culture in our community that for me as a council member, I want to make sure that we're going to shine when it changes this chapter, and we're going to live and build this city the way we want to see it. So for me, I take my slogan, "Don't move, improve," seriously, and I'm looking forward to being your council member.
Jose?
CD9 is, like everybody said, everybody's on the dot. We are a melting pot of minorities. From Central Avenue Jazz Festival being historic African American corridor where only African Americans in the 50s and 40s can stay there, stay at a hotel, go to a bar, in the entire city of LA, to now being the immigrant hub of Los Angeles. You look at the candidates who are running, a lot of us were born in other countries, and something beautiful to see. So the diversity that's changing, the history that we have being African American, now changing to being more Latino, and people embracing that is beautiful. So yes, that's CD9 is beautiful.
Thank you. Martha?
Thank you. I would say that the best about CD9 is that we have a social justice activist incubator, the most resilient and humble people, the most important trauma survivors are here, not to discourage businesses and the historical landmarks, but the people that live here have been historically opposed to oppression. They have organized for centuries about social justice, and the core is the people that are resistant and survivors of so many injustices from our government. So I truly believe in people, and I want to represent it from my heart.
Thank you. Hey, Adriana?
Yes, so CD9 South Central LA has resiliency. We have talent, community love. We also have the best tacos de Puebla. And we also have the best cumbias, local cafecitos emerging. Growing up here is tough. I mean, we hustle every day. But even when everything is set against us, these systems, right? We show up for each other, creating safe spaces for us. So I am excited to continue leading with you all con amor y sin miedo. Thank you.
Chris?
My home has such a rich history, and you often hear about that rich jazz history on Central Avenue, like how legends like Duke Ellington and Cab Calloway and Dizzy Gillespie used to sleep at the Dunbar Hotel on Central Ave because they weren't allowed to sleep in Hollywood. Oftentimes, I think that we focus so much on our rich history with the jazz culture and everything that is so beautiful about South Central Los Angeles, but nobody talks about the future of our community. And what I want to do is I want to help build what I believe can be a bright future for this community, and that's why I'm running. I'm running to serve the community that I love and I've lived in my entire life. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'm debating. I don't think we have time for one more question. You guys are succinct, but not that succinct. I think we'll go to closing statements. I'm sorry, everybody. There were so many good questions we didn't get to. I apologize. We have a very talkative group here. Okay. Before we go to closing statements, I do want to let everybody know that our end of the year holiday party is coming up. It's this Saturday at 6 p.m. You can go to our website and RSVP, and we're looking forward to seeing you there. Okay, we're going to start with our closing statements, and we're going to go with Jorge first, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, everyone. And for all the residents in South Central Los Angeles and District 9, I want you to know that I have a lot of love for my community. Being born and raised in this district, having raised my kids here, opening my business here, opening my only home for 20 years to serve the community has been a pleasure, an act of kindness, an act of service. And I want to bring that same energy into City Hall. I want to say that of all the candidates, I'm pretty much one of the few independent candidates that are not taking corporate money, not lobbyist money, not developer money. I'm here to serve my community, and I would love to get your support. Will let you invite me over to your home so I can get to know me better. Set up a meet and greet with your neighbors, your family, and this is how we're going to win this election by organizing, by staying on listening to each other, and but if getting elected, when I get elected, I want you to be going with me to City Hall and make sure you keep me focused and empowered. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I apologize for someone that drew on our screen. Jose.
First, thank you, Streets for All, for hosting this. This is very important for our community. The transportation issue is our issue. I'm the transportation candidate. Since I was in elementary school, I took the RTD to get home. People are too young to remember that, but it's now the MTA. I remember the highlight of my life was getting 25 cents for a transfer ticket, a little piece of paper. I thought that was a game changer. And now pushing for metro lanes, light rails down Slauson, light rails down Vermont, making sure that our community CD9 has transportation to make sure we go away from cars and make sure we have a safe place to take a bus, take a train, take a bike, walk. I also want to close down streets. I want to close down Avalon from King to Slauson and turn that once a month to a walking, biking corridor to connect all our parks. We've already did that. We're closing down around the LA Live. We closed down, Chick Hearn Way to make sure that's no longer a street. And now it's open to pedestrians. You want to do that around Trade Tech, Grand Avenue from Washington to, 28th? I want to close that down to make sure that cars don't have the goal is to make this a carless city for us to walk and bike to our work, to our school. Thanks. And I'm the one to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Martha.
Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. My work as a therapist has provided me with a very deep insight about the mental health challenges faced by individuals, particularly those that depend on public transportation. I have support clients who have experienced trauma, including assaults while waiting for the bus on shelters. That has brought me a deeper understanding of the vulnerabilities that transit users face. The economic difficulties often force people to rely on public transportation for essential activities like commuting for work, school, for medical appointments, going to different places. My family and I personally rely on public transportation when we were going to college, from South Central to Dominguez Hills, from South Central to Cal State and Northridge. Those experiences have not really been easy for us. My son was hit by a car when he was doing dart dodge multiple times. Those incidents have taught us about the importance of having all these programs taking place. Those experiences have been really powerful for me to commit and reinforce the implementation of those transportation programs. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Adriana.
I'm running to represent the community that raised me because our community deserves a voice in City Hall that is rooted in District 9. I was born and raised here. I was raised taking the Dash on 55th and Compton to go to school, the 108 bus on Slauson to go to work. I organize here, serve here. I know every street in our district. And as we implement initiatives here, I will fight for everyone taking space in the streets of District 9, residents, homeowners, small business, street vendors, loncheras, to be included in the decision making. It is important that we build transportation, that we honor the needs of our South Central families, because that is our job as city council members. My commitment is simple: put our community at the center of every decision in District 9, because that's my commitment to the residents of District 9. I am here to make sure the city finally invests and implements a community first approach in our district.
Thank you. Chris.
Well, I guess since we're all naming the various buses that we took, I think it's incumbent upon me to say that I used to take the 105 to get to Dorsey High School. But my community's been overlooked for too long. It's a strong and resilient community, and it's ready for a future where our streets reflect our worth. I'm a civil rights attorney, right? And I'll say this, that mobility is a civil rights issue because your ability to move determines your ability to access opportunity. And I love USC and I love LA Live, but let's be honest here. They are going to get theirs regardless of who is councilman. I'm here for my community. I'm running for South Central Los Angeles. I'm here for Central Avenue. And I'm running to make sure that our kids can walk to school safely. I'm running to make sure that our seniors can get to the store or the doctor without fear. I'm running to give families transportation choices that reduce costs and improve quality of life, and to finally bring equity and dignity to South Central streets. I'm Chris Martin, and I believe that CD9 deserves the same investment, respect, safety as every other district in Los Angeles, and I'm ready to fight for that, and I'm ready to win it. Thank you.
Thank you. Elmer.
Yeah, my experience comes from living in the community and working for Black and Brown social justice. We need a council member that is ethical and operating with integrity, not a continuation of the same excuses that the hood always gets when we ask for more. A city should be judged by how we treat our most vulnerable residents. And I will work with urgency to address the issues of mobility, housing, safety for our neighbors, and economic opportunity. I will fight for a council office that is not only responding to the needs of our residents, but making sure that we are proactive and going out and seeking input from residents. I'm committed to investing in youth and education as a foundation for keeping our communities healthier and safer, making the environmental improvements that our community desperately needs by bringing more green spaces, more art and culture and recreation to our neighborhoods. Thank you, Say, for organizing us today.
Thank you. Estuardo.
Yeah, I grew up on the buses. I fell in love with the city looking out the window of a bus in the back seat. It was one of my favorite places to be. One of the most sacred times in the city of Los Angeles is early in the morning when folks are going to work, just like my mom does. She's been going to work on the 210 on Crenshaw. She lives in Hyde Park to go to the west side. And I know she loves it because she connects with her homegirl. She connects with her people, just like I did going to high school throughout every high school that I went to in this city. I am also a father, and I want to ensure that my family, that my 4-year-old and my 2-month-old baby are able to connect with their folks, able to connect with their community. And I think we're able to do that by decentralizing the car here in Los Angeles. And transportation is an equitable issue. It's about making sure that the folks that are riding transportation now have better services, have the bus shelters that we need in South Central LA, have the things that we need to be able to get to work on time and not get fired like I did when I got fired from Taco Bell for showing up 15 minutes late because the bus wasn't on time. So we need buses on time, we need them to be free, and we need to make sure that they work for the people in South Central LA.
Thank you. Well, listen, I really want to thank all the candidates. It's not easy to sit for 90 minutes and answer rapid fire like this. So we really appreciate your time. We wish you the best of luck in your campaigns. Streets for All will be releasing an endorsement questionnaire, probably at this point early next year. And we'll go from there. So good luck, everybody. Thank you for your time. Thanks to the audience. I understand there might have been some translation issues with the subtitles. When we upload this video to our YouTube channel tomorrow, we'll see if we can also upload a dubbed Spanish version, or at least one with Spanish captions. So I apologize. We did try. We upgraded our Zoomed account and paid for that just so we could have Spanish captions. And I'm sorry if they didn't work well for some. With that, have a good night, everybody. Talk to you later.
Good night, y'all.